It's not an apology, but it's a crack in the wall. I take it. Gregory's arraignment is scheduled for the following month. He's facing multiple charges: fraud, harassment, impersonation of law enforcement, and civil rights violations. His lawyer tries to spin it as a misunderstanding, but the mountain of evidence says otherwise. His home, once pristine with manicured hedges and motion lights, is quiet now. For sale sign out front. No one waves at the place anymore. Justice didn't arrive in a flash. Came brick by brick in the form of facts, footage, and people refusing to look the other way. And as I sit on my porch, watching Jalen shoot hoops with Rico's son, I know one thing for sure. The next time someone like Gregory comes around thinking they can play king of the cul-de-sac, they better check who's watching, because Refries watches back. It rains the morning Gregory Langston appears in court. Not a heavy storm, just a cold, quiet drizzle that clings to your skin and reminds you the sky sees everything. He steps out of a sheriff's van in an orange jumpsuit, wrists shackled, eyes darting toward the cameras like he still thinks he can spin this, still thinks the story will bend in his favor. It won't. The courtroom's packed. Local reporters, community leaders, even a few of the same neighbors who once nodded politely at him while he weaponized the HOA. They're here now and they're not clapping. The judge reads the charges: fraud, forgery, harassment, criminal impersonation, civil rights violations, obstruction. Each one hits like a nail into the coffin of his reputation. And then come the testimonies. I take the stand, not to gloat, but to lay out exactly how it felt watching my son be followed, my property vandalized, my family treated like invaders in a place we legally called home. I wasn't just targeted, I say. I was stalked, gaslit, and silenced, because I was black, because I dared to belong in a place he thought was his. Gregory stares straight ahead, jaw clenched, but I can see the sweat. Diana testifies next, unraveling the fake companies and embezzlement. Rico testifies. Even Linda, the same woman who once looked away, stands tall and confesses she saw things, heard things, and said nothing. I thought I was just staying out of it, she says. Now I know I was letting it happen. The judge doesn't hesitate. Gregory is sentenced to 5 years in prison, with additional civil suits pending. He loses his pension, his consulting firm collapses, and the IRS starts sniffing around his finances like wolves circling a wounded deer. His name becomes a cautionary tale in HOA meetings across the county. The man who once slammed my truck door like it was his kingdom now scrubs toilets behind bars in a bright jumpsuit with no clipboard in sight. That's karma. But the true victory is what happens after. Jalen walks home from the bus stop now without looking over his shoulder. Rico and I host weekend barbecues where everyone actually shows up. The HOA rewrites its bylaws to protect against abuses of power and installs body cams for any enforcement visits. Voluntary now, of course. I repaint the trim on my house. Bright navy blue. The same color Gregory once said was too loud for the neighborhood aesthetic. Now, it's on the cover of the HOA newsletter. Resident Spotlight. The Thomases set the standard. Funny how things flip. But the moment that hits me most is the block party. Jalen's laughing, shooting hoops. Neighbors are eating ribs. Diana's DJing off a Bluetooth speaker that keeps cutting out. Someone hands me a soda and slaps me on the back, saying, "You really stood your ground, man." I smile, but it's what Linda says that sticks with me. "I used to think peace meant keeping things quiet," she says softly. "Now I know it means speaking up, even when it's uncomfortable." She looks me in the eye. "Thank you for making us uncomfortable." I nod, swallowing hard. "Thank you for not running from it." And in that moment, with the music playing, kids laughing, and a community finally beginning to heal, I realize this isn't just justice. It's change. And it's ours now. I call the fire marshal again, but it's a crack in the wall. I don't bother with voicemails. I take it. Gregory's arraignment is scheduled for the following month. Still in my scrubs. He's facing multiple charges. Still smelling like hand sanitizer fraud, and old wounds. Harassment, a young man impersonation at the front of law enforcement, me, and civil rights violations. I nod. His lawyer tries to spin it as a misunderstanding, Says here
but the mountain
of
evidence
says
closed.
otherwise.
Closed.
His home, I echo, once
pristine
with manicured hedges and
no
motion
imminent
lights,
danger,
is quiet
issue
now.
deemed
For sale
administrative.
sign out front.
That's all it
No one
says.
waves at the
I stand
place
there
anymore.
silent.
Justice
My heart
didn't
pounds
arrive
behind
in a
my
flash.
ribs like a warning.
Came brick by brick
Someone
in the
pulled
form
strings.
of facts. Someone
Footage
doesn't
and
want
people
this refusing
looked
to
into.
look the other way.
And I have a
And
name
as I
in
sit on
mind.
my porch,
Diane
watching
Witherspoon.
Jalen shoot hoops
Back
with
at
Rico's
Larkspur,
son,
I confront her.
I know one thing
She's
for
pruning
sure.
her roses.
The next time
A
someone
ridiculous
like
wide
Gregory
brim
comes
hat
around
shielding
thinking
her
they can
porcelain
play
skin.
king of the cul-de-sac,
I approach with
they better
photos,
check
evidence,
who's watching,
and a letter
because
I drafted
refries
for the
watches
city
back.
code enforcement office.
It rains the morning
Diane,
Gregory
I'd like
Langston
to speak.
appears in court.
I'm terribly
Not a
busy
heavy
today,
storm,
Miss Brooks.
just a cold,
She says,
quiet drizzle
clipping
that
a bright
clings to
red
your
bloom
skin as if it
and
offended
reminds
her.
you the sky
I hold up
sees
the photos
everything.
anyway. He steps out of a
That's a
sheriff's
live wire
van in an
exposed
orange
in the
jumpsuit.
breezeway.
Wrists
And this
shackled.
mulch fire,
Eyes
is
darting
not
toward
the
the
first
cameras
one.
like he still
You're
thinks he
ignoring
can spin this.
active fire
Still
hazards.
thinks the story
She
will
glances
bend in his
briefly,
favor.
then
It
shrugs.
The
We
courtroom's
followed
packed.
protocol.
Local
I already
reporters,
spoke to the
community
fire department.
leaders. They
Even a
assured
few
me
of
we're
the same
in
neighbors
compliance.
who once
I
nodded
narrow my
politely
eyes.
at him while
You
he
spoke to
weaponized
them?
the HOA.
I have
They're here
connections,
now,
dear,
and they're not clapping.
she says sweetly.
The judge reads the
Larkspur's
charges.
always been a tight-knit
Fraud,
community.
forgery.
We don't
harassment,
appreciate being slandered
criminal
with baseless
impersonation,
accusations.
civil rights
She walks
violations,
away before I can
obstruction.
respond. Each
That
one
night,
hits like a
a
nail
maintenance
into
crew
the coffin
quietly
of his
replaces the
reputation.
sparking light.
And then come
mulch
the
is
testimonies.
raised.
The
I take the
newsletter
stand,
changes its tone,
not to gloat
subtly,
but to lay out
with
exactly
a line that
how
reads,
it felt watching my
Reminder,
son be followed.
personal
My property
grievances
vandalized.
should not interfere
My family
with
treated
community
like
morale.
invaders in a
And
place
that's
we
when I
legally called
realized
home.
I'm being erased
I wasn't
in real
just
time.
targeted,
But I'm not
I
alone.
say. I
Daryl
was
Green,
stalked,
a single
gaslit,
black father
and
in Building
silenced,
F,
because I was
knocks
black.
on my door 3
because
days
I dared
later.
to belong
He's
in a
holding
place
a
he thought
Ziploc
was
bag
his.
of charred
Gregory
insulation
stares
from his
straight
daughter's
ahead,
room.
jaw
Wall caught
clenched,
fire
but I
behind
can
her
see the
outlet.
sweat.
We called
Diana
911.
testifies next,
But the HOA
unraveling
told
the fake
responders
companies
it was a
and
contained
embezzlement.
incident.
Rico
Didn't even
testifies.
notify
Even
the building.
Linda, the
I
same
invite
woman
him
who
in,
once looked away,
show him my folder
stands
of
tall
photos,
and confesses
emails,
she saw
HOA
things,
meeting minutes,
heard things,
he
and
whistles.
said nothing. They're
I thought
covering
I was
this
just
up.
staying out of
Worse,
she says.
I say.
Now
They're
I know
gambling
I
with
was letting
lives.
it happen. The judge doesn't hesitate. Gregory is sentenced to 5 years in prison, with additional civil suits pending. He loses his pension, his consulting firm collapses, and the IRS starts sniffing around his finances like wolves circling a wounded deer. His name becomes a cautionary tale in HOA meetings across the county. The man who once slammed my truck door like it was his kingdom now scrubs toilets behind bars in a bright jumpsuit with no clipboard in sight. That's karma. But the true victory is what happens after. Jalen walks home from the bus stop now without looking over his shoulder. Rico and I host weekend barbecues where everyone actually shows up. The HOA rewrites its bylaws to protect against abuses of power and installs body cams for any enforcement visits. Voluntary now, of course. I repaint the trim on my house. Bright navy blue. The same color Gregory once said was too loud for the neighborhood aesthetic. Now, it's on the cover of the HOA newsletter. Resident Spotlight. The Thomases set the standard. Funny how things flip. But the moment that hits me most is the block party. Jalen's laughing, shooting hoops. Neighbors are eating ribs. Diana's DJing off a Bluetooth speaker that keeps cutting out. Someone hands me a soda and slaps me on the back, saying, "You really stood your ground, man." I smile, but it's what Linda says that sticks with me. "I used to think peace meant keeping things quiet," she says softly. "Now I know it means speaking up, even when it's uncomfortable." She looks me in the eye. "Thank you for making us uncomfortable." I nod, swallowing hard. "Thank you for not running from it." And in that moment, with the music playing, kids laughing, and a community finally beginning to heal, I realize this isn't just justice. It's change. And it's ours now. We form a quiet alliance. Daryl has connections in local media. His cousin works for a digital news site. We decide to compile everything. Fire risks, ignored warnings, HOA negligence, and a suspiciously coordinated silence. I even tracked down the original fire inspector from the 90s who signed off on Larkspur's last sprinkler waiver. Turns out, he retired and filed a complaint against the board in 2007 for falsifying a safety compliance letter. But the pressure builds. My mailbox is vandalized. My tires are slashed one morning before work. A new HOA community civility memo circulates, encouraging residents to report aggressive or divisive neighbors to the board. Aggressive. That word. Weaponized politeness. Smiling daggers. I see it everywhere now. In the way people cross the street when I walk with Daryl. In the way Diane says, "Dear," like she's seasoning it with arsenic. Then something unforgivable happens. Mrs. Canfield's smoke alarm finally chirps. I'm up late, reviewing notes, when I hear a strange popping sound across the courtyard. Then the alarm. A shrill, metallic scream. I run barefoot, banging on her door. Smoke curls under the frame. She opens it coughing, eyes wide. The oven. I just wanted to warm it up. The wall behind her glows orange. I pull her out with both arms, practically dragging her down the stairs. Her poodle bites my ankle in panic, but I don't stop until we're outside, gasping, shaking, watching flames creep up her living room wall. The fire trucks arrive in 7 minutes. The building's gone in 10. 2 neighbors, an elderly man with mobility issues and a woman visiting her sister, never made it out. Dead. Because the board said sprinklers were too expensive. Because Diane smiled through the smoke. Because no one listened when a black woman said, "This place is a tinderbox." Now, I have more than a folder of evidence. I have blood. And I swear to God, it's not going to be buried under roses and HOA memo. The emergency response tape still clings to the charred skeleton of Building C like a crime scene afterthought. Burnt beams lean at awkward angles. Smoke-stained siding flutters in the breeze. 2 bodies were pulled from that wreckage just 24 hours ago. And yet, the HOA meeting proceeds. Same folding chairs. Same stale coffee. Same Diane Witherspoon standing at the front like she's hosting a garden club. Not the aftermath of a tragedy. "Let's maintain order, please," she says, wrapping a spoon against a mug. "We're all grieving, and this is a time for healing, not finger-pointing." I sit in the front row, face calm, heart hammering like a war drum. Daryl sits beside me. Mrs. Canfield is in a wheelchair 2 seats over, arm wrapped in gauze, her poodle in her lap like a trembling puffball. Diane clears her throat. "We want to assure residents that the fire was an isolated incident, and the board has every intention of cooperating fully with local authorities." I raise my hand. She eyes me coolly. "Miss Brooks, this isn't a Q&A. I think it needs to be." A few murmurs ripple through the room. Half the neighbors glance at the back exit like they want to slip out. The other half stare, waiting for the show. Diane sighs dramatically. "Fine." One comment. Then we move on. I stand slowly, holding a folder in one hand, my phone in the other. You all know what happened. You saw it, smelled it, heard it. You know 2 people died in that fire. And you also know this board refused to install sprinkler systems when they had the chance. Diane straightens. We followed the law. The building was up to code. You can't hold the board responsible for a tragedy. I'm not holding you responsible for the fire. I cut in, voice calm. I'm holding you responsible for ignoring every single warning that could have prevented it. I tap my phone and hold it up. Here's an audio recording of last month's board meeting where Diane says, and I quote, "If they want sprinklers so bad, let them install them themselves. I'm not wasting HOA funds on paranoia." Gasps. A few neighbors twist in their chairs to look at her. Her lips curl. You can't legally record private HOA meetings. Actually, under state law, as a homeowner in a common interest development, I can record any meeting where policy is discussed. This public record. And I have more. I open the folder and begin passing copies down the row. Here's the original inspection report from 1992 stating the buildings should be retrofitted within 10 years. Here's the insurance waiver that expired in 2015. And this, I hold up the last sheet, is a complaint filed in 2007 by the original fire inspector, alleging that this board falsified a compliance letter to keep premiums low. The room is dead silent. Diane's face is porcelain cracked, still composed but barely. "You're making baseless accusations," she says. "You think waving some papers around changes the truth?" "I don't need to change the truth," I say. "I just needed to prove you've been hiding it." I tap the mic on my phone again. "And this morning, I sent it all to Channel 8 News. city code enforcement, and the district attorney's office. You'll be hearing from all three. And soon. She steps forward, voice sharp now. You think you're a hero? Stirring up this drama? You're not even from here, Miss Brooks. People like you come in and ruin the harmony we built. People like me? There it is. Out in the open. No more veils. She tries to walk it back. I meant outsiders, agitators. No, you meant black women who don't stay quiet. Her face tightens, but her eyes flinch. Just for a second. Enough. From the back of the room, someone stands. It's Daryl. My daughter almost died because of your harmony. Then Mrs. Canfield speaks, voice hoarse. You left us to burn. Neighbors are no longer silent. There's a shift in the room, a weight lifting. People murmuring. Eyebrows furrowing. Heads turning toward Diane now, not away from me. The kingmaker is naked. And suddenly, her crown doesn't shine. I walk out of that meeting with no applause, no cheers. Just the hum of justice awakening. And the quiet sound of a woman's world beginning to collapse. Diane's face twitches. She tries to compose herself, but the room is no longer hers. The control she once wielded with manicured precision. Gone. Authority slipping through her fingers like ash. I'd like to remind everyone, she says, voice shaky but forced, that these allegations are entirely unsubstantiated. I've served on this board for 15 years. I've dedicated my life to Larkspur. Dedicated it to yourself. Daryl mutters under his breath. Diane ignores him, locks eyes with me. You don't understand the burden of leadership, she snaps. People like you always think shouting makes you right. But this neighborhood doesn't run on feelings, it runs on structure. On rules. And who do those rules protect? I ask calm. Because it wasn't Mr. Langston or Ms. Ortiz. They died because you made sure sprinklers were too expensive. Too disruptive. Just like everything else that threatened your version of order. She glares. You're trying to destroy everything we built. No, I'm trying to rebuild what you neglected. Starting with the truth. I tap my phone again. You remember last year's fire drill you canceled? I never canceled it. It was rescheduled. No, you sent out an email saying it was unnecessary panic. Want to see it? I hold up the screen. A few gasps ripple around me as I mirror the email to the projector behind the podium. Bold letters. Clear as day. Subject. Cancelled. Fire drill notice. Let's not create anxiety. Larkspur is not a tenement. The words hang in the air like smoke. Mrs. Canfield speaks up. So that's why my grandson never got a fire plan. He was visiting that night. Another woman chimes in, voice shaking. We were told our unit didn't qualify for a smoke alarm install because it was grandfathered in. All eyes return to Diane. She's cornered, but she still plays defense. None of that proves I committed a crime, she says, raising her chin. The board voted. It was democratic. If there was negligence, it was collective. You want to tear down everything because you didn't get your way. A new voice cuts through the room. Cold. Authoritative. No, Diane. This isn't about a vote. It's about deception. Every head turns. A tall black woman in a gray suit steps forward from the rear exit. Detective Nia Harmon. Refry's Fire Investigation Unit. She flashes a badge, her voice cool as a razor. I've been reviewing documents sent anonymously to our office. Paired with forensic reports from the fire scene, we now have probable cause to believe that a sprinkler retrofit was required and intentionally evaded by the HOA board. Specifically, its president. Diane stumbles back half a step. This is outrageous. This is criminal negligence, the detective says flatly. If proven, it's a felony. Gasps erupt. Cameras flash, neighbors recording now. News vans had parked outside 20 minutes ago. Someone must have tipped them off. Detective Harmon nods toward the back. An officer steps in, walks slowly toward the front. You can't do this here. Diane protests, color draining from her cheeks. We can. This is now a criminal investigation site. The officer gently turns her around. Cuffs click. She doesn't scream, doesn't cry, but her eyes, wide and darting. Say it all. How did it come to this? I answer silently. Your lies finally ran out of room to hide. The neighbors part like the Red Sea as she's let out. The poodle at Mrs. Canfield's feet lets out a sharp bark. Someone claps. Then another. Then the whole room, soft at first, then louder. But I stay silent. Because there's one more card to play. I step back to the front. There's something else you should see. The projector changes. Now it's grainy security cam footage. Dated 2 weeks before the fire. Diane, walking briskly down the hall of Building C. She stops at a sprinkler control box, pulls a key from her purse, unlocks the panel. She turns a dial, tapes something over it, then leaves. Gasps erupt again, this time sharper, angrier. Detective Harmon glances at the footage, then nods. That just confirmed sabotage. Likely disabled the only functioning backup system in the entire building. Daryl clenches his jaw. She locked us in a tinderbox. Mrs. Canfield whispers. She knew. Outside, sirens wail again. Not in panic, but in procedure. A fire truck pulls up. But there's no blaze tonight. Just the slow, methodical work of justice. Diane Witherspoon is placed into the back of a squad car. Her kingdom? Charred and crumbling. Her power? Doused. Her legacy? Ashes. And me? I don't say much. I don't need to. Because sometimes, silence is the sound of victory. The next morning, the HOA sign is gone. Just gone. The polished brass letters that once gleamed Larkspur Estates Homeowners Association have been stripped from the clubhouse wall. In their place, yellow caution tape, legal notices stapled crooked to the bulletin board, and a quiet that feels like exhale after holding your breath too long. I walk the perimeter trail like I used to when I first moved in, back when I still believed this place could be home. And maybe now, finally, it can be. Diane Witherspoon is in custody, charged with 2 counts of criminal negligence resulting in death, fraud, tampering with safety equipment, insurance violations, and thanks to that hidden clause buried deep in the HOA bylaws, she's personally liable for any losses caused by board misconduct. Her $1 million home? Frozen. Her accounts? Seized. Her reputation? Evaporated. By noon, she's on every news channel. Former HOA president arrested in fatal blaze cover-up. Her mugshot splashed next to photos of the victims. Ms. Ortiz smiling in her garden. Mr. Langston cradling his grandbaby. Justice has a face now. 2 of them. At the clubhouse, a new meeting is called, this one led by the Interim Community Safety Board. I'm asked to speak. Keep it short. We didn't come here to burn bridges. I say. We came to build safety and community. Let's make sure this never happens again. Applause. Some teary, some hesitant, but something's shifted. Mrs. Canfield limps over afterward, gripping my hand. I should have listened earlier, she says. I thought she had it under control. She made it sound like you were just angry. But you weren't, you were right. It shouldn't take tragedy to make folks see. I tell her softly. She nods. Doesn't argue. Even Mr. Hargrove, the man who once complained about my unsightly Black Lives Matter sign, approaches. I was wrong, he says, eyes wet. About a lot of things. I don't let him off easy. But I do nod. Because change starts somewhere. A week later, 2 trees are planted in the community garden. One for Ms. Ortiz. One for Mr. Langston. Their families stand beside me as we press the soil down. Hands dirty, hearts full. Each tree wears a ribbon with their names. Beneath them a plaque, in memory of lives lost, and voices finally heard. It's quiet for a moment. Then Ms. Ortiz's daughter breaks the silence. You saved a lot of people, you know, she says. They just don't all realize it yet. I shake my head. I didn't save anyone. I just wouldn't let them silence the truth. She smiles. That's what heroes do. I don't feel like a hero. I feel tired. But for the first time since I moved here, I also feel something else. Peace. Not because the fight is over, there's still work ahead. There's always work. But because the lies burned, and the truth didn't. Because the system cracked, And this time we slipped a little justice through. I sit beneath one of the new trees, sun warming my skin, breeze carrying the scent of something green and growing. And I remember Diane's words from weeks ago. Sprinklers are too expensive. No, negligence is expensive. Ignorance is expensive. And now, Diane Witherspoon is paying in full.